In any organization, the energy of the people within it is spent defending on threats from external issues, meaning problems which come from the outside. But sometimes, employees can feel that they need to keep up their shields from internal issues too. This creates issues where the valuable energy and performance must be used to guard against internal problems. But how can this be mitigated? This is LifeLine. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of LifeLine 911 with your host, Erica.
Hello.
I am your co-host, Gary, and today we are going to be discussing internal threats. So, Erica, we kind of talked about it in the intro, but a lot of times in many organizations, not just emergency communications, but any type of organization, you have what are known as sort of external threats, meaning problems that are coming from outside issues. So this could be if you have a company that deals with customers, maybe a customer that is unhappy, or maybe a rival business opens up. But you can also have internal threats, which are where the people working with you, are they working with you, or might they be working against you?
Yeah, that is absolutely true. And you're right. It happens, I'm sure, on some level everywhere, right? Because anytime you have a bunch of human beings with different personalities and different value systems, points of view, moral compasses, whatever you want to call it, you got that many different personalities in one place. You're bound to have conflict, and that's normal. But what I think we are talking about is when the organization kind of starts to turn in on itself because of that conflict. And so in particular, ours, it's easy to say new people, right? They're already not as secure, not because they are not good at what they're doing, they're just new at what they're doing. And so they are prone to mistakes and missteps. What makes us better, or should make us better, is the experience around us. And I'm sure other industries have this, but I've said it before, this is the industry where we eat our young. And it's the strangest business to me, because now we create an environment where these new people, instead of expending all of this energy focused on getting the call in fast and right and accurate with all the information, now they're doing this. Their eyes are darting all over the place. They're worried if somebody's going to jump out and tiger pounce them for making a mistake, or, saying things that are just going to really pound their confidence.
Yeah, and we were kind of talking about it a bit before the show, but it is kind of a tightrope to walk, because you don't want, like, if you're an employee and you see another employee making an error, you want to help them ideally to not make that error and to be as good as they can be. But you also don't want to make it almost a police state where everybody's checking everybody's work all the time in a negative way. And it's hard to kind of walk that middle road to be encouraging and supportive of others, but not being tattletale-y, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because you know what they say about people that tell a lot.
Snitches get stitches.
Hey, and sometimes they end up in ditches. Let's just go and tell the truth. It's just the way it is. We're a sick bunch. But you're right, though. You don't want, there is a very, very delicate balance there. Because you want to, especially if you are someone who is tenured and experienced, you've been around a while, you've seen some things, and you see someone about to step on the tripwire, you want to go, no, don't do that. And you mean well. How might they take it? But in your urgency to stop them from making this mistake, you don't deliver the no in the way that it would be meant, right? You come across as a tiger pounce when you really mean, hold on, don't do that. I've been there. I know how this is gonna go. Please don't do that. It's a dance.
It depends on your relationship with that other person, because typically it's going to be your peer that we're talking about,
Hmm.
how what you're saying is going to come across. How are you saying it? And a lot of that is from where it's coming from within you. Are you saying
Hmm.
this to make them better, which will in turn make the organization better? Or are you saying this to trip them up or berate them or show
Hmm.
your power? Any of the other sort of
Yeah.
malevolent reasons.
And it's right up there with, we one of the, was it the last one or maybe the one before, we talked about gatekeepers and obstacles to coming into this profession. Once people make it in, that is one of the minefields they have to navigate, and it's sad but true. Sussing out whether someone's coming at you from a good place or not so good place with this information they're sharing with you, or correction that they're giving. And I wonder if, because you and I are in supervisory positions, I wonder if we could not do better in preparing especially our newest of the new, to receive that correction, sometimes even from their peers. Because even I feel like I'm guilty of this. I don't know when the last time I have said to a new person, hey, if one of the senior call takers or dispatchers sees something, we've empowered them to attempt to help you. So if someone does offer some correction to something they might see you doing, don't take it as an attack. Take it as, that's experience, and I can't be everywhere at once. I wonder if we couldn't do a better job of that as
Oh,
leadership, so it won't be as bad.
coming from our positions as supervisors, we play a very large part in the culture of that. So, are we making people feel comfortable in helping one another and fostering an
Mhm.
environment that is positive, productive, and encouraging, lifting one another
Mhm.
up? Or do we
Mhm.
foster more of an environment where it's tattletale, getting people in trouble, pushing them down for you to get ahead? I don't know. I would say that it's probably maybe somewhat less common in the public sector than it would be the private sector, because you think about movies where, how many movies that take place in like the business world, is there like the one guy that's always trying to like push the other guy down so he doesn't get the promotion, get ahead,
Yeah.
understand something. But I mean, it's certainly a part of the human element that
Mhm.
people naturally kind of want to feel that way and control things. And it takes training and time and patience and
Yeah.
trust to kind of overcome that. And that is a challenge. But that is, I think, how in any organization you can foster the best. Because if you can get away from that feeling of, I'm going to one up you, or it's a zero sum game,
Mhm.
to we're all working together to achieve something, then people can stop focusing their efforts of keeping themselves safe from the inside, and they can take that energy to more productive things, sharpening their skills, bettering
Yeah.
their performance,
Yeah.
making that discretionary effort a real viable tool. And that's, I think, the most important aspect of a successful team and organization.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter the team. You're right. Whether we're talking about, a fast food restaurant or public safety, because no matter what organization it is, that organization's mission is the most important thing to them.
Mm-hmm.
We just happen to be in public safety. And in my mind, how much more important is it that we have less and less of that internal friction, that and how important is it that we have people that feel safe to do the work because
Mm.
they don't have anything else to worry about inside the building, or at least as little as possible. I just feel like, again, no organization outside of public safety is less important. We're just important in a different way. Does that make, I want to make sure I say that right, because I know we can be an arrogant bunch, and public safety is the only thing that matters, right? Because we're just
Well,
the most important thing ever.
well, yeah. I mean, like, I think a team probably wouldn't exist if it didn't have some important function to fulfill. Our
Hmm.
show is about emergencies, communications, public safety, that kind of thing. So we kind of focus on that. But any organization is going to have elements of that, I think. And
You're
I
right.
wonder if it's more pronounced if you have a larger group of people than a smaller group of people. I think you and I have generally only worked in fairly large agencies that have, you know,
Yeah.
over 100 employees working there. Um,
Yeah.
and I would imagine that the more you have, there's more that sense of kind of, I got to get ahead like this way, and more internal issues going on.
One might think that, but in my travels, um, with teaching and even online and having discussions with our peers in public safety from different organizations, whether they be, up north or off to the east or west, I have found that even the smallest of agencies have that. And I think in their cases, from what I can remember, it's almost worse. And the reason I say that is there's less meat to eat because
Fair
there's
point.
less of
Yeah.
them. There's less of them. And so they have their friction. It's concentrated
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
less eyes to watch it and try to help spread it out. There's many supervisors in our organization because it's bigger, but then you
Hmm.
got more people. So maybe there's pockets of feeding that's happening. I feel like I'm getting off track here.
No,
Okay.
no. I, I think that's great. Yeah. And no, you bring up a very good point that maybe the size of the organization doesn't really matter because it, it can get more pronounced if there's only, 7 or 10 or 12 people rather than,
Mm-hmm.
several hundred, because
Yeah.
there's fewer pathways to go. And
Yeah.
it's not always about people looking for, promotions or recognition. It could just be, as we kind of discussed in that earlier episode of the gatekeepers, people not wanting others to succeed for various reasons because,
Mm-hmm.
you got to keep the number of people that can do this job to the absolute minimum, or it's not as critical in some people's minds.
Which is, like we said, absolutely crazy. The more skilled, confident, mentally and emotionally safe people we have performing public safety duties, the safer the public is and the safer our internal customers are, which is our field responders, whether they be EMS, fire, or PD. You want as balanced a person as you can possibly get sitting down to manage any one of these positions in emergency communications. They don't I think the overall goal of the show, for this episode is, do we want to have healthy coworkers that can sit down, plug in, and let's go to work and get it done and do it well? That's what we want, right? Or do we want an environment where we've got this cutthroat situation going, or people who are struggling and they don't feel safe to say they're struggling, and they're scared to death to make a mistake. So they're focused all their time and attention on getting things exactly right, not for pride in the work, but for fear of being attacked.
Maybe it comes down to competition,
Hmm.
wanting to, be the best, which is, good, but there's healthy competition and then there's harmful competition. And if what you're doing is counterproductive to what the mission of your organization or your department is, then it's probably a good idea to stop and reevaluate where you're coming from and why you're coming from there, because that's not conducive to a flourishing environment for everybody, because
Yeah.
you'll wither away if you don't have that level, a high level of trust with people. And I think that's really where a lot of this comes down to is trust, because
Yeah.
if you feel like you can trust your coworkers, your supervisors, your management, then that makes you feel more comfortable to take risks. And risks are how you can grow and develop and achieve new things, because if you're always doing the same thing day in and day out, you're never going to grow.
No. No. You won't. You will stay stagnant, or you'll just become stagnant. You won't grow, you won't develop, you won't push boundaries, you won't present new ideas. You won't even be willing to listen to new ideas because you're just kind of in this rut. And we say it often, and it is true. Public safety is woefully shorthanded overall. as an industry in general. We are lacking in fire and EMS and police dispatchers and call takers and emergency management professionals, all of whatever title you want to give us, first responders, the first responders. We are woefully shorthanded nationwide. And the only way we're going to get better is if we start taking a hard look at ourselves internally in the way that we conduct ourselves inside the walls of our PSAPs. We've got to make it a better, safer, more productive and collaborative environment for people,
Hmm.
or we'll just continue to lose good people, and the new people that brave the front door may not stay.
Yeah. Turnover rates are very high, and
Hmm.
that's one of the reasons is because of the internal issues that go on. So
Yeah.
we've kind of talked a lot about the effects of the low trust kind of one up mentality, but I guess how does that actually coalesce? Like what does that look like? If you were to give me some correction, what would it look like if you were giving me correction in a kind of low trust one upmanship way versus a high trust help one another way?
I'm going to tweak this example a little bit
Okay.
for obvious reasons because we have a lot of people that work where we work. Somebody might recognize themselves. Oh, wait, do I really want to? Do I really want to change it? Okay, I'll change it just a little bit. So, we had a situation very recently where um, we have a trainee that was, towards the latter part of her training, and she went to make a decision on the radio, and a CTO that was not working with her saw what they believed to be a mistake she was about to make.
Hmm.
And she said, "What the are you doing? That is the dumbest thing. Why would you do that?" Blah, 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 blah. I mean, just all the wrong things. All the wrong things. The kind of things that make you want to punch somebody and worry about doing the time later. Just nothing good, right?
Hmm.
That is not the way you do that. And so what happened to the trainee? They froze, and they're like, I, 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 uh, I don't, and they're stammering and stuttering and trying to give an answer, but the person is yan 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 yan, and of course now they're so flustered they can't make a decision. They're stalled in that moment. So what does that look like? That looks like that if you are in a training capacity. It looks like, well, why did you put that officer over there with that one? Why did you do that? Instead of, I saw a little earlier that you did this. Mind telling me why you did it that way? I've never quite seen it that way before. Why did you do it that way? Or, hey, I'm not trying to get on your case, but I've been doing this a minute and I kind of noticed a decision that you made earlier. I really want you to know this is coming from the right place. So I've been down this road before. I've seen how the decision you made, it worked out this time, but here's some ways it could not work out the next time. There's ways to do that. But here's the thing that matters the most. If the first time you are having an interaction with this person is you correcting them, I don't care how big of a smile you have on your face, it's not going to go well. Start with, hey, how you doing? And matter of fact, start with, hey, how you doing? 2 or 3 weeks before they get to this place, so that so that when they see you coming, they don't tense up. The hair on the back of their neck doesn't stand up because now this is the first time you senior person has ever bothered to know their name. Now you're coming to correct them. So it goes way back. It starts with developing a welcoming persona. I didn't say y'all had to go have beers and watch the football game, but this is your peer and this is a part of your organization, and we're doing life-saving work. So how about we just show each other some courtesy, treat them like a person, so that when it's time for you to deliver this correction, they don't freak out just because they look up and see you standing at the station. I
Yeah,
had to get that out. It was just, I just
and a lot of it I think is the tone more so
uh-huh.
than what you say,
Sure.
because if you've done what you can and sort of built up a relationship with these people, so there's some mutual trust and respect there, it gives you some currency in the bank to be able
Mm-hmm.
to talk to them about things that they need to improve on.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're coming at it from whatever standpoint you're coming at it is going to come through. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're like, I really, care about my profession and want it to be the best, I think a lot of people have that, but
Mm-hmm.
then they don't keep going with that thought, because then the
Yeah.
next thought should be, and for it to be the best, it needs to have the best call takers and dispatchers that it can. So let
Yeah.
me make you that. And
Yeah.
when you stop before getting to that point in your thought process, then it becomes, I got to cut the rotten stuff out rather
Mm-hmm.
than making that rotten stuff into good stuff.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
beautiful analogy, Gary. Good work.
Well, nobody, and I think anybody that, especially, matter of fact, I was going to say in the profession, but the truth is, I don't believe that anywhere you work or any work that you're doing, when you have to learn it from the ground up, when you are released, if you will, from your training time, right? Most people are not released at the gold standard level. They are released at bronze, at the bones, base level that is acceptable. If you as the senior person approach your correction or advice or anything that you if you approach it with that in mind, then it's going to come across like, hey, I'm trying to help. But if you think that everybody should be on your level as soon as they are released from training and hit the ground running, then yeah, you're going to come at it in a very, a harsh and accusatory manner. Adjust your expectations of the people that are around you based on their skill level. That will certainly help. And
Mhm.
it doesn't matter what environment you're in. I don't care if you're flipping burgers at McDonald's. The guy that's been flipping burgers for 15 years can do it with one hand tied behind his back, not even looking at the grill, and the cheese lands right there on the patty, just beautifully. Why? Because he's been doing it since God was a boy.
And it's kind of funny because a lot of times, we talk about the value of experience and why that should be, why that justifies a lot of things like, higher pay and,
Mm-hmm.
X, Y, and Z. But at the same hand, sometimes people don't realize that experience has value because it takes time to get there. As you've said many times, it takes as long as it takes.
Somebody with 15 years experience has 15 years experience, and for every year they continue to do it, that's a year that you will never gain. You're never going to catch them.
Hmm.
So by the time you've been doing it 15 years, now they've been doing it 30. Or if they've been doing it 5 and you just started, guess what? By the time you've been doing it 10 years, they've been doing it that much longer. You're never going to catch them. So experience has value and it should be respected. I think with that, it comes a even greater responsibility to wield that experience and that knowledge with in wisdom and with grace.
Kind of going back to the original topic, if you can do that, and if where you're coming from, if you feel like there's trust in your organization, then you'll feel more confident, giving people some, not correction, but maybe guidance. And it doesn't even
Yeah, that's a
necessarily
good
need to,
one.
yeah, it doesn't even necessarily need to come from like a more senior person to a more junior person, because there's lots of times that when I was a CTO or even as a supervisor, where somebody who's just come out of like on the job training or classroom training, they'll tell me something that has changed since I went through training, or
Mm-hmm.
tell me a new, you know, command to use on the computer, something like that.
God,
Um,
dude, what?
yeah, and that that to me makes me feel better, because
Yes.
it gives me more information and better able to do my job. And
Mm-hmm.
if it comes from a place of trust and cooperation, that's how you can really make your organization soar. It's not something you can force. Like, you can't just put out a policy like, we're going to trust everybody. Uh, Unfortunately, it's not that, and it's not a quick turnaround. Rome wasn't built in a day.
We
But
wish. Mm-hmm.
if you work at it every day, you exude the type of person you want to work with, then that will slowly start to make changes, because
Agreed.
it takes everybody working together on the same page, pulling in the same direction to to make movement happen. We appreciate you joining us today, and we hope we made some movement happen in your brain thinking about the topic today. And if you have any tips or tricks on how you or your organization has done this, we'd love to hear about them. You can always drop us a line at lifeline911podcast@gmail.com. But until next week, from all of us at Lifeline 911, I'm Gary.
I'm Erica.
And we will see you next week.
Thank you for watching. If you have any questions about today's topic or topics you'd like to cover in the future, please reach out to us at lifeline911podcast@gmail.com. This has been a production of Lifeline 911, copyright 2026. Until next time, this is Lifeline 911 signing off.